For over 35 years, an airplane considered the largest in the world and the most recognized has dominated our airways. Known for its size, symbolism, beauty, and global dominance, this airplane has become a powerful representation for the nations who fly here.
It was unbelievably beautiful for its size. I think everybody that probably crawled into it felt that it would handle differently than a regular airplane, just due to its incredible bulk. Once you learned in a turn to adjust for its mass, and once you adjusted for that, and then that became part of your toolkit in your mind, you knew this, and it was just like flying a regular airplane.
But originally the airplane was built to fly intercontinental. It had to be big to carry enough fuel to get across the ocean, and it had to have 4 engines to push it off the ground.
You know, everybody calls it the whale. When we originally got it, we called it the Incredible Hulk because it was so beefy, so strong.
Once coined as the unwanted stepchild by the end of the 1960s, the Boeing 747 gave birth to a new way to travel to destinations never imagined before by the public.
I know Robert Crandall of American was loath to look at 747s. He ran into Juan Tripp at a convention someplace, and he just hated having 4 engines because he thought it was completely uneconomical. And he asked Tripp, why did you get that airplane with 4 engines? Tripp says, because I couldn't find one with 5.
Today, due to changing economics of the airline industry, most classic 747s are ending up here in the largest storage facility for 747s in the world, Evergreen Aviation in Marana, Arizona.
The reason for the demise of the 200 is purely economic. It's 2010, and we all know how the economy's been kind of coughing and sputtering for the last 8 or 9 years. And I think that as the airplane's gotten older, it's costing more to maintain. Over the last 3 to 4 years, as the airplanes have come up for a heavy check, a heavy overhaul check, which is really an expensive proposition, rather than pay for those expensive overhauls, the airplanes have been retired.
How does an airplane of such popularity meet such a demise? To understand why these magnificent giants are ending up as relics of the desert is to understand how and why the airplane was made. In 1965, Juan Tripp of Pan American Airlines, the most influential international airline at the time, had a vision of increasing intercontinental routes with added capacity. After the government awarded airmail contracts to other airlines, Tripp knew in order to compete, he had to come up with a better idea. The idea was to carry twice as many people for half the cost, thus making air travel available to anybody at the same time that everyone would be using Pan American. Building the world's largest airliner was no easy task. Bill Allen, the president of Boeing Corporation in 1965, agreed to build a large jumbo jet if Tripp would guarantee an order. And he did, with an initial order for 25 airplanes worth over $525 million. Allen also pulled in a man by the name of Joseph Sutter, an aerodynamic engineer at Boeing who had extensive experience designing the Boeing 737, along with 100 of his hand-picked engineers to design what would become the largest transport category jet in the world. Sutter knew in order for the largest jetliner in the world to be successful, not only did it have to carry 400 plus people, it also had to double as a freighter. There were many concept designs of the airplane to include a double-decker, mid-wing configuration that all airlines rejected, to which a pilot once remarked, "How would you like to be a passenger on the lower deck during a water landing?" The challenges in designing the 747 were enormous. Designing an engine powerful enough to power 747 had not yet been developed. Safety was also a major concern for Sutter and his team, as he knew that designing the world's largest jet, there had to be many redundant systems built into the aircraft. Eventually, the single-deck design with the characteristic hump on top was chosen. For many people, the year 1968 was a tumultuous year in our American history. But in September of that same year, the Boeing 747 was introduced to the general public. The airplane would revolutionize the airline industry and air travel. When airlines filled their 747s, they made lots of money. In an industry where a difference of 1 to 2% can mean millions of dollars per year, Boeing had introduced an unprecedented moneymaker. Soon airlines from all over the country who had enough cash to purchase a 747 bought them.
Welcome to the world of Trans World Airlines. Welcome to the world of Trans World Airlines.
It was an era of glamour, impeccable service, and luxury. Airlines were guaranteed to make a profit even though their airplanes were less than half full due to subsidies from the government.
One big airline that does it all.
An airline ticket from Minneapolis to Miami in today's dollars back in the early 70s would cost $800 to $1,000. Today, that same ticket would sell for less than $200. In the years to come, the 747 would reign over the world as the largest transport category jetliner. The golden age of aviation would not last long as the Airline Deregulation Act took effect in 1977. Combined with a fuel crisis that gripped the country, airlines were scrambling to compete and meet passenger demand for the lowest airfare. Once an elite experience, airlines were forced to eliminate upstairs piano bars, passenger lounges, and glamorous food service. With changing economics and preferences of the general public, the 747 found itself in a hostile environment.
Price.
How about the price?
I would say the most important concern for me is price.
Safety, I don't really think about it.
Well, I usually balance convenience and price.
The most important thing is price.
If you're going to have to pay for luggage or not, and carry on and that kind of stuff, but nothing.
There's a price break at which people will choose not to fly, and the airline has to always be conscious of where that price point is and keep their costs below that so that they can afford to stay in business.
When the Airbus people created the 380, Boeing in their marketing looked and said, there is no market for that anymore. And they went with the Dreamliner, with the 250-seat capacity aircraft. That's where they think the market's going to be for the airline industry, and I agree with them.
The 747 will always remain a symbol of American ingenuity for the many airlines who flew her that are now only memories of the past. A symbol that won over the hearts and minds of many people, held on like the little engine that could. In the end, it would only be apparent to some who were directly associated with such a domineering and powerful American-made symbol. The human connection made toward a man-made machine will surely be missed. A fully restored 747 can be seen at the Smithsonian Institute Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., where its irresistible admiration, undeniable beauty is worth preserving. At a time where newer airplanes are appearing on the scene, such as the Boeing 777 and the highly anticipated 787 Dreamliner, both with newer technologies, more fuel-efficient twin-engine configurations, are pushing the mighty 747 aside. Nonetheless, the 747 has risen to greatness in all its wonderment, instantly recognizable symbol, along with the DC-3 and the Wright Flyer. It has taken its place in history.